It all started in the gym, of course. The place where egos are as heavy as the weights we throw around. Jacob was rambling beside me as usual. Who the hell is that, he asked, his voice dropping into that mix of awe and envy that sets your teeth on edge. I followed his gaze. There he was, Tom Rivera, all 6 feet of him, muscles glistening under the overhead lights, pulling off his shirt like he didn't even notice half the room was staring. New guy, I muttered, forcing my eyes away. So what? Jacob's grin widened. So what? Look at him, built like he stepped out of a superhero movie. And I heard he's already captain of the football team. I snorted. Captain, huh? Guess he's got something to prove. Inside, though, something burned sharp and ugly. I wasn't about to admit it, but I'd always been the guy people looked at when they walked into a room like this. Now, everyone's eyes were glued to Tom like he was the main attraction. Well, I added, trying to play it cool, I can build like that too. Just gotta hit the gym more. Jacob clapped me on the back. Jealous, Sammy? Come on, man, look at his body. Anyone would be. I gave a half-hearted chuckle, arms crossed over my chest. Jealous? Of that? Please? But my stomach twisted. Because Jacob was right. Later that day, we were playing football, and of course Tom was on the opposing team. He stood there shirtless again, because why wouldn't he be? Looking like he owned the field. It wasn't even a real game, just practice, but he moved like he was at the Super Bowl. Keep your eye on him, Jacob whispered, smirking. He's fast. I got it, I shot back, annoyed at how calm Jacob was. Like Tom wasn't a big deal? The whistle blew, and before I knew it, Tom had the ball. I was on him in a flash, determined to prove that this guy wasn't as untouchable as everyone thought. But damn, he was quick. He zigzagged past our defense like we were nothing, feet light, body controlled. I gritted my teeth and gave chase, but by the time I reached him, he'd already scored. Nice try, Tom called over, flashing me that grin. It wasn't a mocking grin, though, which somehow made it worse. It was like he wasn't even trying to make me feel small, he just was better, naturally. And don't get cocky, I growled under my breath as I jogged back. Jacob met me halfway, shaking his head with a laugh. I gotta admit, he's good, he said. Yeah, well, we'll see about that, I snapped, glancing back at Tom. He was talking to his teammates, all casual, like this was just another day at the gym for him. I couldn't shake the feeling that this guy wasn't just fast on the field, he was speeding his way into everything. The next practice, things escalated. Coach had us scrimmaging again, and like clockwork, Tom was on the other side. It was hot, too hot for this intensity, but I didn't care. Today I was going to make sure he didn't walk off that field with his usual smug grin. As the whistle blew, the ball flew into play, and right on cue, Tom was everywhere at once, cutting through my team like it was nothing. My jaw clenched tighter with each step he took. I had him marked, though, ready to shut him down. Every time he moved, I was there. I think you've got him this time, Jacob joked, running up beside me, but I wasn't laughing. The ball came flying toward Tom, and I seized my moment. I lunged, arms out, ready to block him. But in one smooth motion, he sidestepped, spun, and was gone. The crowd erupted as Tom darted down the field, a blur of muscle and speed, scoring yet another goal. He turned, breathing hard, but not hard enough, like this was just a warm-up for him. Our eyes locked, and I was already storming toward him, my frustration bubbling over. Nice one, Rivera, I spat, the sarcasm thick in my voice. How's it feel to be the golden boy? Ha. He wiped the sweat from his brow, barely flinching. Feels pretty good. You should try it sometime. But don't get too comfortable, I shot back, stepping closer. We're not done. He didn't rise to it, didn't bite. Instead, he smiled. That same infuriating smile from before. I'm always ready, man. Anytime? I turned and stalked away. My fists clenched so hard my knuckles ached. Behind me, I heard Jacob mutter, "Careful, Sam, you're letting him get to you." But it wasn't just that. It was the way he didn't react, the way nothing seemed to rattle him. It made me want to push harder, run faster, prove that this was still my field. Tom had just turned this into more than a game, and I was ready for a fight. By the end of the week, it was like Tom was everywhere. Not just on the field, but in the locker room, the cafeteria, the hallways, hell, even in my conversations. People wouldn't shut up about him. He's not that great, I muttered as we sat down for lunch, shoving a fork into my food. Jacob raised an eyebrow but didn't argue. He didn't need to. Everyone else was doing enough talking for him. Did you hear Tom got voted captain of the team? Some guy down the table said. And student council president, another one chimed in. I dropped my fork. What I asked, glaring across the table. Student council. Already. Jacob nodded, half smirking like he wasn't surprised. Yeah, man. Guess people like him. He got double the votes you did. I could feel my jaw tighten again. That fast? He's been here, 2 weeks? Jacob shrugged. He's got that thing, man. People just like him. I could barely stomach my food. Tom wasn't just beating me on the field, he was taking over everywhere. He was shaking hands with the professors, charming the girls who used to flirt with me, even winning over the guys who'd never give me a second glance. It was like he'd walked in and everyone else had suddenly decided I was second best. As I shoved my tray aside, Tom walked by our table, laughing with a group of people like he didn't have a care in the world. He glanced my way and nodded. "Hey, Sam," he said casually, like we were buddies or something. I forced a nod back, feeling the heat rise in my face. Jacob leaned in, voice low. "You all right, man?" I didn't answer. I couldn't. The guy had waltzed in and without even trying was taking over everything I had worked for. And the worst part? He didn't even seem to notice. Later, as I headed out of the cafeteria, Jane caught up with me, slipping her hand into mine. "You okay, babe? You seem off lately?" I glanced down at her, then over her shoulder, where Tom stood laughing with some other girl. Yeah, I lied. I'm fine, but I wasn't, and I knew it. Tom wasn't just some guy passing through. He was digging in, and I had no idea how to stop it. The more I tried to shake it, the worse it got. Tom wasn't just some cocky guy with good looks and a talent for football. No, there was something else, something that gnawed at me every time I caught him looking my way or laughing with his friends. It wasn't just envy anymore. It was something I didn't want to admit. After practice one day, we ended up alone in the locker room. Everyone else had already cleared out. I was at my locker, peeling off my sweat-soaked jersey, trying to focus on anything but the fact that Tom was just a few feet away, stripping off his shirt. "Hell of a practice today," Tom said, breaking the silence, his voice casual like he wasn't standing there shirtless, glistening under the dim lights. I didn't turn around. "Yeah," I muttered, trying to sound uninterested. "You played well, Sam, you've got talent?" The compliment caught me off guard, and I turned to face him. There he was, leaning against his locker, shirt tossed carelessly on the bench, those damn blue eyes locking onto mine like they could see through every wall I'd built. "Thanks," I managed, but it came out rougher than I meant. He smiled, just a quick twitch of the lips like he knew more than he was letting on. "You're good competition." "Yeah, well," I said, feeling the tension rise in my chest. "You've been making it hard to keep up." Tom took a step closer, still casual, but there was something in the way he moved that had my heart racing. "You think I'm that tough, huh?" I didn't answer. I couldn't. My mind was spinning, my pulse quickening in a way I didn't understand. This wasn't just about football, wasn't just about jealousy. There was something deeper, something I hadn't been ready to face. He was standing close now, closer than he needed to be, and I didn't back away. My throat was dry, and I was trying to think of something, anything to say, when suddenly, without thinking, I stepped forward and kissed us. It was quick, barely a second, but it was enough to make my whole world tilt on its axis. I pulled back, heart pounding in my chest, eyes wide as I stared at him, waiting for him to shove me away or laugh or something. But he didn't. He just looked at me, calm, steady. "Well," he said, voice low, "that's one way to deal with competition." I didn't know what to say. Hell, I didn't even know what I was feeling. I just grabbed my bag and bolted, leaving Tom standing there, still shirtless, still calm, while my mind spiraled into chaos. What the hell had I just done? The next day, everything felt off. I couldn't focus during practice, and it wasn't because Tom was running circles around the field again. No, it was because every time I looked at him, I remembered that kiss. The way his lips had felt, how he hadn't pulled back, hadn't freaked out, and worse, the way I wanted it to happen again. "Dude, you good?" Jacob asked, jogging up beside me during a water break. "You've been acting weird." I wiped the sweat from my face and shrugged. "Yeah, I'm fine." Jacob shot me a look, clearly not buying it. "You barely spoke during lunch and you've been missing tackles all day?" I grunted, trying to push past him, just distracted. "By what?" I didn't answer. I couldn't tell Jacob, hell, I couldn't even admit it to myself. So I changed the subject. "Tom's just pissing me off, all right? He's everywhere." "Yeah, well, you better get over it. If you're gonna have to deal with him until graduation," Jacob laughed, slapping me on the back, but his joke didn't hit the mark. Tom jogged past us, glancing in my direction. For a second, our eyes locked, and I froze. He gave me a subtle nod like we shared some secret. It sent a rush through me, one I wasn't ready for. "Sam, seriously, what's going on?" Jacob pressed, clearly noticing the tension. "Nothing," I snapped, more forcefully than I meant to. "Just drop it." "Okay." Practice ended, and I headed straight for the locker room, hoping to avoid any more awkward moments. I couldn't deal with Tom, with Jacob's questions, with any of it. But of course, as soon as I walked in, Tom was there, alone again. Like some cruel joke the universe was playing on me. He was halfway through pulling off his shirt when he looked up, meeting my eyes. "Sam." I swallowed hard, my throat dry. "Tom." There was an awkward pause before he broke it, his voice calm. "About yesterday." "I don't want to talk about it," I cut in, quickly moving to my locker, yanking at the lock like it might save me from this conversation. "Okay, but we probably should." He didn't sound angry or weirded out, just normal, which made it worse. He was handling this like it was no big deal while I was spiraling. I said, "I don't want to talk about it," repeated, avoiding his eyes, feeling the tension rise in my chest again. Why wasn't he pissed? Why wasn't he making this easier by being angry or avoiding me? "You kissed me," he said, no judgment in his voice, just fact. I spun around, hands clenched into fists. "Yeah, and it was a mistake. So let's pretend it didn't happen." Tom stared at me for a moment, and then, to my surprise, he shrugged. If that's what you want. Want. I wasn't expecting that. No fight, no confrontation. Just a simple agreement, like it didn't affect him at all, like he could just move on from it while I was stuck drowning in my own confusion. Yeah, it is, I mumbled, though the words felt wrong as they left my mouth. All right, he grabbed his bag, slinging it over his shoulder, but for the record, it wasn't a bad kiss. I froze, my heart slamming in my chest as I watched him walk out, leaving me there stunned, replaying his words in my head. What the hell was I supposed to do with that? By the time I got home, the kiss was still burned into my mind. I couldn't shake it. Worse, I couldn't shake him. It wasn't just the kiss, it was Tom's calm. The way he didn't freak out, didn't push me away, like he knew something I didn't, like it didn't bother him at all. Jane texted me that night. She wanted to meet up, grab dinner, something normal. I stared at the screen, her name flashing, and for the first time I didn't know what to say. I had a girlfriend, a great girlfriend, but here I was, thinking about Tom instead. What the hell's wrong with me? I finally typed back a quick sure, see you tomorrow, and threw my phone on the bed, the guilt twisted in my gut. Jane didn't deserve this. She had no idea what was going on inside my head. The next day we met up after class. Jane greeted me with a smile and a kiss on the cheek. Hey stranger, you've been distant lately. Everything okay? I forced a smile, wrapping my arm around her waist. Yeah, just a lot on my mind, football, school, you know. She nodded, but I could tell she wasn't buying it. You sure that's it? You've been weird since last week. I swallowed, trying to act normal, but Tom's face kept creeping into my thoughts, and I thought, yeah, I'm fine. Let's just grab dinner. We sat down at the cafe, Jane chatting about her classes, her friends, everything that used to make me feel at ease, but I couldn't focus. My eyes kept wandering, expecting to see Tom walk through the door, expecting to feel that same rush of panic and something else, something I couldn't quite explain. You're doing it again, Jane said suddenly, pulling me out of my thoughts. I blinked, turning back to her. Doing what? Not being here, her voice was gentle, but I could hear the frustration. What's going on, Sam? You can talk to me. My throat tightened. Could I? Could I really tell her that I'd kissed a guy in the locker room, that I couldn't stop thinking about him? I shook my head, forcing another smile. It's just stress. I'll be fine. She leaned forward, her hand covering mine. I'm here for you. Just don't shut me out. Okay. I nodded, but the guilt was heavier than ever. I should have felt relieved sitting here with her, being normal, but all I could think about was how much I was lying. How I wasn't just shutting her out, I was burying the truth so deep I didn't even want to admit it to myself. That night, I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. The kiss replayed in my head again. Over and over, and every time, it wasn't just the guilt that hit me, it was the fact that I didn't regret it. Well, I wanted it to happen again. And that scared the hell out of me. A few days passed, but nothing felt normal anymore. I couldn't get Tom out of my head. And Jane, well, things were getting awkward. Every time she smiled at me, it only made the guilt heavier. I knew I had to talk to Tom to clear the air or something. I couldn't keep acting like nothing happened. After practice one evening, I waited for everyone else to leave the locker room. I had my chance when Tom stayed behind, sitting on a bench, casually scrolling through his phone like he hadn't noticed me hovering nearby. Tom, I said, my voice harsher than I intended. He looked up, his blue eyes locking onto mine, calm as ever. Sam, what's up? I walked over, my heart pounding. I didn't even know what I was going to say, but I needed to say something, anything. We need to talk about what happened in the locker room. He tilted his head slightly, still too damn relaxed. The kiss. I clenched my fists. Yeah, that. It was a mistake, okay? I don't know what I was thinking, but it didn't mean anything. Tom raised an eyebrow, standing up slowly, stepping closer until we were face to face. It didn't mean anything, he paused, searching my face like he could see straight through me. Then why are you still thinking about it? I'm not, I started, but the words caught in my throat. He knew I was lying. You sure about that? His voice was low, calm, but there was an edge to it now. Because you're here? Sam, and I don't think it's just to tell me it didn't mean anything. I felt the anger bubbling up again. Anger at him for being so damn collected, and anger at myself for not being able to control the way talking. You don't know anything about me. Tom didn't flinch. He just crossed his arms, a small smirk tugging at the corner of his lips. Maybe not. But I know he didn't hate it. The words hit me like a punch, and before I knew it, I shoved him hard, sending him stumbling back a step. Shut up, Tom. His smirk vanished, replaced with something colder, sharper, but he didn't shove back. Instead, he just stood there, staring at me, eyes steady. You can push me all you want, but it's not going to change anything. You kissed me, Sam, and you liked it. I backed up, shaking my head. No, I didn't. I have a girlfriend. I'm not, I stopped myself, the words feeling wrong in my mouth. Tom's voice softened, almost like he felt sorry for me. You don't have to be anything. But pretending it didn't happen isn't going to fix this. I looked away, my chest tight, fists still clenched. It was just a stupid mistake. Tom took a deep breath, his calm finally cracking. If it was such a mistake, why can't you look me in the eye right now? I snapped my head back toward him, glaring. Because this isn't me. I'm not like you. For a moment, there was silence between us. The air was thick with tension, and I could feel my heart racing in my chest. Finally, Tom stepped forward, close enough that I could feel the heat coming off him, his voice low. You're right. You're not like me. You're you, Sam, and maybe you need to figure out what that means. I opened my mouth to argue, to say something, anything, but nothing came out. I just stood there, staring at him, the weight of everything crashing down around me. I'm not here to mess with you, Tom added, his voice softer now. But I'm not going to pretend this didn't happen. You shouldn't either. And with that, he grabbed his bag and walked out, leaving me standing there, torn between everything I thought I knew and everything that was spinning out of control inside me. He was right. I couldn't keep pretending. But what the hell was I supposed to do now? The days after that confrontation were hell. I couldn't stop replaying the argument, the kiss, the look on Tom's face. I tried throwing myself into football, into classes, into anything that would drown out the noise in my head, but nothing worked. Even Jane noticed something was off. You're distant, she said one night when we were hanging out at her place. Her hand rested on my arm, but it didn't feel the same. Nothing did. And I've got a lot going on, I said, staring at the TV, pretending to care about whatever was on. She sighed, pulling her hand away. It's more than that, Sam, you're not here. You haven't been for a while. I turned to face her, guilt hitting me like a wave. She didn't deserve this. She didn't deserve me shutting her out, lying to her face, pretending everything was fine when it was far from it. Jane, Before I could finish, my phone buzzed. I glanced at the screen. Tom. I ignored the message, but it was too late. Jane had seen the name flash across the screen. Tom, why is he texting you? Nothing, I lied quickly, shoving the phone in my pocket, but she wasn't buying it. Sam, what's going on? Is something happening with Tom? Her voice was soft, but there was a tension behind it, the kind that cut deep. I felt the panic rising. I could lie, keep playing the part of the perfect boyfriend, but I knew this was my breaking point. I couldn't keep doing this, lying to Jane, pretending with Tom, pretending with myself. I stood up, running my hands through my hair, pacing the room. I don't know what's happening, I finally admitted, my voice shaky. I don't know anything anymore. What do you mean? Jane asked, standing too, her eyes wide with confusion and worry. I stopped, facing her, feeling the weight of everything crush down on me. I kissed him. Jane, I kissed Tom. The words hung in the air like a bomb, and I could see her expression shift from confusion to hurt to something worse. You what? I nodded, unable to look her in the eye. It happened, and I don't know why. I'm sorry, I didn't mean for any of this to happen. Her eyes welled up with tears, and I hated myself for being the one to put them there. Sam, do you have feelings for him? I opened my mouth to answer, but nothing came out, because I didn't know. Maybe I did. Maybe I didn't. All I knew was that things were spiraling, and I didn't know how to stop it. Jane took a step back, wrapping her arms around herself. I don't even know what to say. I'm sorry, I whispered, my voice cracking. I didn't want to hurt you. I swear. She nodded, blinking back tears. But you did. I couldn't argue with that. She was right. I had hurt her. And Tom and myself. There was no winning here, I know. For a long moment, neither of us said anything. The silence between us was thick, like the air was too heavy to breathe. Finally, Jane spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. I think you need to figure out what you want, Sam, because right now I don't think you even know. I swallowed hard, the guilt swallowing me whole. She was right. I didn't know what I wanted. Not anymore. I'm sorry, I said again, but it felt hollow. Jane shook her head. You should go. I nodded, grabbing my jacket and heading for the door. As I left, I didn't look back. I couldn't. All I could think about was the mess I'd made of everything, and how nothing felt right anymore. As I stepped outside into the cold night air, I pulled out my phone and stared at the message from Tom. I couldn't keep running from this. I had to face it, even if I didn't know what the hell it meant. With a deep breath, I texted back, we need to talk. I met Tom the next evening back at the gym, the place where everything had started spiraling. The fluorescent lights buzzed above us, and the faint smell of sweat hung in the air. It was just us, no team, no crowd. Just the two of us standing in the center of the space where I had once felt so sure of myself. Now I felt like a stranger in my own skin. Tom was leaning against a bench, waiting, his usual calm confidence making me feel exposed. When he saw me, he straightened up, eyes meeting mine, but there was no grin this time, just a quiet intensity. So Tom said after a long silence, you wanted to talk. I nodded, feeling my throat tighten. Yeah, I don't know where to start. He shrugged, his voice soft but steady. Just say what you need to say, Sam. I took a deep breath, running a hand through my hair. I told Jane about the kiss. Tom's eyebrows raised slightly, but he didn't say anything. He just waited, giving me the space to spill everything, and I did. I told her because I couldn't lie anymore. Not to her, not to you, not to myself. I looked away, ashamed. She broke up with me. Tom nodded slowly, his expression unreadable. I'm sorry, man. I let out a bitter laugh. Yeah, well, I did this. I hurt her. And I hurt myself. Another long silence stretched between us. I couldn't stand the quiet anymore, so I spoke again, my words tumbling out in a rush. I don't know what's happening to me, Tom. I thought I had everything figured out. You know, football, school, Jane, it all made sense. And then you showed up, and I feel like my whole world's been turned upside down. Tom stepped closer, his eyes never leaving mine. And how do you feel about that? I hesitated. Confused, angry, scared, I paused, my voice lowering. But I don't regret it. The kiss, I mean. Tom's gaze softened and he closed the distance between us, standing so close I could feel the warmth radiating off him. Neither do I. Hearing him say it out loud with no hesitation hit me hard. I had been fighting this for so long, fighting him, fighting myself, and for what? To keep pretending. To stay in control of a life I didn't even want anymore? Then what the hell do I do now? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Tom's hand reached out, resting gently on my shoulder. You stop running. You figure out who you are without all the bullshit. And maybe we figure it out together. I looked up at him, my pulse racing again, but this time it wasn't panic. It was something else, something that felt more like relief. Together. Tom's lips quirked up in a small, genuine smile. Yeah, together. No pressure. We take it one step at a time. For the first time in what felt like forever, I let myself breathe. No more pretending. No more hiding. It was terrifying, but also freeing. I nodded, feeling the weight on my chest begin to lift. Okay, one step at a time. Tom squeezed my shoulder, his voice soft but full of promise. We've got time, Sam, no rush. I smiled, a real one this time. And for once, I didn't feel lost. I didn't have all the answers, but for the first time I wasn't scared to find them. As we walked out of the gym together side by side, I realized that maybe this wasn't the end of everything I thought I knew. Maybe it was just the beginning.